a very tall building is a very important commission. Tall buildings connect the sky with the center of the world. For the many cultures, this was the way to assure that happiness and good life were going to be assured coming from heaven to earth through this the axis mundi, the axis of the world that goes through the building. And that to me is a very wise way of seeing the buildings and almost an essential way of seeing a very tall building. That means that the building has to be very erect, very intentionally, purposefully. And as you look at the building, they need to aspire to go to the sky. All of those things you see in Canada Square, very clearly and very simple. Canada Square is very diagrammatically a beautiful skyscraper, a skyscraper should be today, providing very efficient floor place for the offices, but still maintaining a character of a symbolic character. Today, those symbols are not marking a place where God is, but it's a place where people work. In some ways, it's a much more democratic symbol than it has been in the past. This is where places for people to work. And that places for people to work have this important role of marking a place against the sky. I think is marvelous. I think it's a very democratic thing.
You know, I think Cesar's attitude and philosophy about tall buildings is so clear that it's almost unquestionable. The whole concept of tall buildings connecting the earth with the sky is absolutely unassailable. You can't argue with that as an approach. What results is something that our clients often require of us, and that is timelessness. And I think one could genuinely say that One Canada Square has qualities of timelessness. You can tell the moment that it was designed, you can certainly tell the moment that it was built, but at the same time it's lasted so beautifully over time that I think it truly embodies the ideal of timelessness.
At that time, it was not very clear. There were people who were supporting the tall building and others that thought this was not appropriate for London. The only reason that they accepted it was because it's very far away. You barely could see it over the Thames. But since then, there has been innumerable tall buildings, and very few of them graceful enough to respect the basic concept of a tall building. Some are awful things, but very tall but awful. And it has become a collection of shapes. And it shouldn't be. A collection of tall buildings should be like a gathering of tall people just chatting in a group. And they are not like civilized. They are not civilized. They are not like individuals. Each building should have its own individuality, should have its own character, but they should all be part of the same family. And they aren't, and that bothers me enormously.
I think one of the interesting things about the evolution of tall buildings over time, particularly if you take One Canada Square as like the beginning of modern history, and look at it the subsequent 30 or 40 years, two things have happened. One is that there has been this extraordinary competition among the iconic qualities of tall buildings. The other issue, I think, is much more important. And that is, what is the most appropriate way for cities to regenerate themselves and to continue into the future? There's absolutely no question in our minds that the idea of maximizing one's place on the earth in a building that is tall is exactly the right way to go. If you can combine that, as Canary Wharf does, with access to public transportation, you almost have the ideal ingredients for the future of cities. The future of cities, frankly, is not to spread out. The future of cities is to grow vertically. If you can grow vertically around public transportation and around public open space, my gosh, it's absolutely the best and the most ideal paradigm for the future of cities. And Canary Wharf, in many ways, is the beginning of that paradigm.